welcome back. So this week we're going to be talking about a very easy to implement and very effective tool to helping with MS, or really for that matter, this could be for any health condition that you have or for general well-being. So this would be great even if you're just an athlete and you're trying to just enhance your performance. So this is a bit out of order from what I wanted to do because I had thought about presenting all of these possible solutions for your health issues. And I wanted to do that in a way that was kind of had some kind of order as to what I thought was the best way to frame what's the most important and then the easiest ones to implement, and then building up to things that might be a bit more complicated or time intensive or economically intensive as well, such as the yoga retreat. I only did that one last week just because it just happened to be part of my own journey. But this week, I would have normally started with something about mindset and manifesting. And I did want to talk about vision boards. And we are going to talk about that, as I do think that having a purpose and setting an intention really is the first step in anyone's health journey, regardless of where you're starting, whether it's right from the beginning or whether you're just fine-tuning your health and you still need to set some kind of purpose. I want to wait on that one till next week just because we are hitting up to spring. And I do think that equinox and solstice is a good time of year to remind yourself what you want to accomplish, where it is you're going. Also, maybe to have some gratitude for the things that you've already accomplished. And so with that, the spring one I think is particularly important because at least here in Canada, this is a time of like rebirth and renewal. And for somebody that's maybe coming out of like a cocoon or hibernation with their illness, this might be a good time to kind of start, solidifying your roots into the ground. And then just like the lotus flower coming up out of the muck to reach the light and then into the beautiful sky to become a flower. So we'll do that one next week. So I'm going to just head for the next thing that I think is most important. And the reason I think this one is most important is, I'm just going to say again, I'm not holding myself out as a doctor here, so I can't give you any medical advice. So you are going to seek that out from your own medical doctor, your naturopath, or just taking your own guidance because you are your best advocate. You know your body best. But, I have spent a lot of time in the doctor's office and a lot of researching about health, and I do know from personal experience how things in my body have worked for me, and I hope they can help you too. So in the last few years, we've really learned, or hopefully we've learned, that a lot of the things that we thought of as true might not have been presented as such. And it's time for us to use discernment and to really look at first principles and like, what do we really know to be true? And that is something that yoga really focuses a lot on as well. So yoga, in part of the yamas and niyamas, which are like the disciplines and observances morally. So it's not a religion, but it does, much like other religions, have kind of tenets and precepts it sets out. And one of them is about being truthful. And in truthfulness, there's a lot of ways in which we can deceive ourselves. And these modifications in the mind can be things that are like outright mistruths. So somebody tells us something and they're trying to manipulate and deceive us. We can see that really in the way our media has worked with our governments around the world and with even our own medical teams. Now, some of that can just be outright malicious, but some of it can be what other people are practicing to us and what we're also practicing ourselves, which is just a misunderstanding. We've looked at something and we haven't quite understood it, but we've spoken it as if that was something true. Another way we can have these kinds of modifications would be if it's like mismemory. So we can all be in the same room and we can have an event happen to us and we all might see it differently. And that's because our past experiences will kind of train our brain to pick up on certain things in the environment because we can't perceive everything all at once. And so depending on where we've been and what things have happened to us, we will pick out different things out of the environment. So it might not be that you're trying to lie about something. It's just that you and your friend might not remember the thing the same way because of your past experience. We also, then the way we store our memories in sleep, there can be some confusion between stream and reality, and that creates these kinds of mind modifications or fluctuations, which is part of why I like to practice yoga. It is trying to discern truth again. And whether you're into yoga or not, I think that this is a good skill to have. And With that being said, a lot of the things that we've learned in our life about our health might not always be true. So going back and looking at my own illness and what might be able to fix it, it's hard to know with treatments and supplements and the medical field because people only know what they know. Once they specialize into one thing, they really get fixated on that one thing. They have built a career on it. People that have developed products, they're trying to sell them. So, I mean, there is a lot of ways in which we need to learn how to unlearn and relearn everything. And so I think that that's really important. So, in trying to humble myself, even for thinking of how to present this to you guys, I was really thinking about like, well, what if I absolutely knew nothing about the body and I knew nothing about health or even about MS or what made MS different than any other health condition? And what are the sort of primal truths that we just know? Now, what I know to be true for myself is I was not born sick. Now, for some of you, you might actually have a genetic illness, and so I'm going to exclude you from that saying. But for the majority of us, we started off in homeostasis, and we started off doing well, and something happened along the way that threw us off. We became dysregulated, diseased, and all of a sudden now we are where we are, trying to find our way back into balance and homeostasis. So in knowing that that is true, is that I was well and now I'm ill. If I was just on an island without any access to any information or knowledge and you all of a sudden got sick and I was looking at you and thinking, I'm going to try to help you, I think the very first thing I would think of is, well, is it really your food? Is it really your diet? Is it really lifestyle factors? Because although those are all important, we're going to reach on them next. You could go a long time without food. You could go a few days without water, but you cannot go more than a few minutes without a breath. So seeing as we are so based on our breath that it is so required to life, I think that that's really a good first place to start. As well, because I like the idea of being able to have things that are relatively easy and free, if not like low cost. And everything we're going to talk about today, aside from maybe a few dollars at a grocery store, these are things that you'll be able to just pick up for free. And they're pretty easy to implement. So I'm really happy that we're going to go through this order, and I hope that you're going to find something useful out of it today. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at your breath. So breath is such a unique thing in our body because it's not only of our body, so it is part of our autonomic nervous system. So when we breathe, we don't have to think about it. It just happens automatically. That's why we can do it when we're still sleeping or when we're focused on another task. But breathing can also come from our mind. We can control it. We can, choose what type of a breath we want to take, how rapidly we want to breathe. So because of this connection between the mind and the body, it really is a bridge. Now, also knowing that your breath comes from an outside source. So when you see a baby take its first breath or you see somebody take their last breath, you understand how life is vital to your breath. It comes from spirit, whether you want to say that, or prana, or chi. It is the thing that animates all of life. So when we breathe, we are alive. When we stop breathing, we are not alive. So now we're looking at breath as spirit, mind, and body. And so these really, again, is why I love yoga, because we're combining all of these things. So because we can take our breath under our control, we do have a way to bring it back into balance. Because when we go, not just with our autonomic nervous system, but when we go on autopilot, humans have a very easy way of getting dysregulated breath patterns. So perhaps before we look at maybe the dysregulated breath patterns, what is a healthy breath pattern? So when we breathe, we want to be breathing into our abdomen and into our diaphragm. And over time, a lot of us, because we haven't done that, our diaphragms, the muscles they don't work quite as well. We don't really know what that looks like. And even when people tell us to take a deep breath, we're thinking about taking a big breath. But a big breath is not really what we're looking for. When we say a deep breath, a deep means far from, like below something, right? It's the depth of something. So depth doesn't mean big, it means deep and away. So when we think about where our chest is and where we're starting our breath, when we're taking a deep breath, we want to take a deep breath that's going down into our lower lungs, because our lower lungs is where we have more blood is there. Like there's more things that are going to be able to exchange the gases between oxygen and carbon dioxide. So this is where we want to have the breath mostly go. And this also does so many other things for us. It's not just about getting a more oxygenated breath, but it's also massages your other organs. So even though we can't, consciously control our digestion or our blood pressure or our heart rate, our breath and our breath pattern does have a way of affecting those. So that can affect your kidneys and your blood pressure. It can affect your digestion, because all of your nerves, the vagus nerves and the nerve that connects to your digestion, all runs in that same area. And when we have a deep belly breath and our diaphragm, it's kind of like a balloon. And so when we breathe in, it sucks and it opens, allowing the lungs to drop down, and it pushes our internal organs and it kind of squishes them down. And then you don't really need an effort. You just let go of the diaphragm, and then that's your exhale. And when it's doing that, those digestive organs are all getting massaged. Now, they don't have their own, like your heart is beating, and so that muscle is pushing around your circulatory system. But your lymph system, besides exercise, rebounding, there's some other things we'll talk about with lymph drainage, but you want to be able to move some lymph in the body, some lymph fluid, and you want to be able to move oxygen into your organs. And this is a way, when you do abdominal or diaphragmatic breathing, that you can do that. So that kind of breath is easy and it's the most efficient. That's how we're designed to breathe. But for many reasons, it could be because you have an illness. Right now I have a bit of congestion, so I am breathing a little bit, I would say more rapid and shallow. And not only is it from an illness, like an acute one, so say you just have a cold, but it can also be for people who have emphysema, COPD. You can have other kinds of like chronic lung conditions, bronchitis, that could cause issues with how you breathe. But it can also be caused by high intensity exercise can do it. And then also, I would say people who talk a lot for a living. So anyone who does sales or they're on the phone a lot, I can even hear myself as I do this video that the more I talk, the more quickly I have to kind of recover breath so that I have enough air to breathe back out as I talk. So these kinds of people will tend to get more. It's not even just now about the how you're breathing and where you're breathing. It's how many times are you breathing. So it's also the timing of your breath. So people that do a lot of exercise will tend to breathe more rapidly, because they're trying to always get more oxygen, because this feeling of that, oh, I need to take a bigger breath, sort of overrides them. They breathe heavier. Now, another thing which I think that probably plays a bigger part for people that are suffering with any autoimmune conditions or MS is anxiety and stress and trauma. So when you get, think about when you see even just somebody scares you, you go, and you get scared and you take that deep breath in, that is changing the pattern of your breathing. And if you have that chronic kind of stress all the time, your breath will start to become more in your chest and in your shoulders. And it's less efficient then, because you have less ability to transfer the gases in your upper chamber. And also the muscles here require more energy to move, because it's an unnatural way to breathe. So you're expelling a lot of that prana or that chi in the effort even to take the breath. So you're not really absorbing that energy. You're using it just to take the next breath. So it is pretty inefficient. And over time, we can, for any one of these reasons, we dysregulate our breathing pattern. And then because of not just the chronic state of stress we live in, but because of what actually happens on a biochemical level inside, we actually change the receptors in our brain. And it now becomes habituated to overbreathe, not just in the depth of the breath, like not the depth, I would say what we incorrectly think of depth, but in the amount of oxygen we're taking in, and then the amount of breaths we're taking per second. So ideally, we want to be having pretty slow breathing. So maybe 6 to 10 breaths per minute, but most people on average are taking way more than that. So there are a few ways that you can kind of set your level right now about your breathing. Um, if anyone's ever heard of, it's called BOLT. So it's blood oxygen level testing. So what you would do to do this, it's a really simple thing that you can do. You would just take, and you can do this now if you want. I'll explain it first, and then I'll give you a second that maybe you want to just try this for yourself. But what you're going to do is just, and you would want to do this practicing after you've been rested for a period of time. If you've been watching this for however long I've been talking, probably a good time. You want 5 or 10 minutes where you haven't exerted yourself, you're sitting. A good time to do is when you first wake up before you even get out of bed. And that way you do it at the same time every day. That way you can see your progress. So for this test, you would take just a normal inhale and an exhale. And on the exhale, you're going to stop and hold your breath. This is not a maximum breath hold. So you're not trying to do this. You don't want to be gasping for an air when you're done this. When you're done this, you want to really take this breath and you're going to hold it until you have a real impulse to breathe. And for a lot of us, we're not sure where that comes, but you'll feel it when you have either a twitch in your stomach, a twitch in your throat, or an automatic response to swallow. Like there'll be something that'll automatically tell you, time, I need the breath. And that's the moment you take it. So for a lot of people, especially people who are chronically ill, your score could be as low as 10 seconds, hopefully maybe up to 20 seconds. But over time, you'd like to see that, especially for people who are training and athletic, you'd want your score, your BOLT score, to go up to about 40 seconds. And when you finally take that next breath, the first inhale might be a little bit deep. So you'll find that that one might be a little deeper than your normal breath, but by the second inhale and exhale, and definitely by the third, you should be recovered back to a normal breathing pattern. And if you're not, if you're still finding that you're kind of gasping for air on the second and third breath, then you've held for too long. That's not actually now your BOLT score. This would be more like trying to get a maximal breath hold, which is a different kind of test. So your BOLT score is going to be very good at telling you kind of where you are now on your breathing and where you want to go. And so in the beginning, I wouldn't worry so much about how much you're breathing in a minute, how many breaths. I'd worry more about your BOLT score because it's more of an indicator of actually how your body is handling oxygen. And in the end of the day, what you want is, I know we think about that we need more oxygen, but that's not really the case for most of us unless we have some kind of a condition. We're pretty fully saturated with this oxygen as much as we can get without any extra effort to concentrating on our breathing. Where we're really getting in the habit of this extra breath is that the CO2 receptors are, they've become too sensitive. So as soon as we have any level of CO2 in our blood, the brain is instantly feeling that, and then it's saying, "Oh my goodness, expel the breath." So you're not really even looking. Your body's not really trying to get more oxygen; it's trying to get rid of the CO2, which isn't really a good thing because the CO2 is actually really important for a lot of functions. So the CO2 in the body is something that's going to help your body actually be able to absorb oxygen better. So even if your body is fully oxygenated and you're at like 96, 99, if you don't have the right CO2 level, that blood, the oxygen in the blood isn't going to actually be used by the cells of your body. So you need to be able to be more tolerant to CO2. So that's going to help to dilate the blood vessels, and the more that they're open, because they'll be able to take in more oxygen and use it more efficiently. So what we're really looking to do is to increase the amount of time that we can comfortably hold our breath without feeling the need to exhale the CO2. So there's a couple of reasons that that's important, is because we also want nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is only going to be made through breathing through your nose. So again, when people are breathing unhealthy, they're breathing through their chest, they're breathing through their mouth. This creates a pattern that becomes habitual in the body. And for a lot of people, the emotional stress response leads to this. So we've had trauma. We start as a result having these more rapid, and pain can cause this too. So people who suffer from pain, like I know with my MS, I have leg spasms that would happen over the years where every 30 seconds it's twitching all night long. And the pain of that cramp over time is causing you now to not be able to relax and breathe deeply. And so when those kinds of traumas or the physical pains happen, your body becomes habituated to this new breathing pattern. And as that happens, you now set your actual physical body up to need to breathe in this pattern. And when that pattern now habituates, so maybe the pain is past, maybe the emotional trauma, you're not thinking about it anymore, you've done some meditation, you're kind of calmed yourself down. This need for the receptors in your brain to expel the CO2 is going to continue anyway, unless you do something to habituate yourself back into a regular breathing pattern. And so what happens when you breathe like this, it now becomes like a loop, right? Because when you breathe this way, it also triggers anxiety and stress in your brain. So now you had the stress caused you to breathe heavier. The breathing heavier changed some physical things in your body. Those physical things now create anxiety in the brain. And now, whether or not your life has changed, so maybe you've left that bad relationship, maybe you've changed jobs, maybe you made your life so you don't have to commute so much, whatever it is that had been stressing you, but it doesn't matter because you're now in this pattern that you need to now figure out a way to change it. So with all that being said, let's talk about then, I hope I caught all of the things there. If I didn't, we can always come back and do another video that covers more of it. Let's think of some of the ways that we can start to fix this pattern in our body. So being a yoga teacher, one of the ways I really like to do this is, you've heard of Nadi Shodhana, which is alternate nostril breathing. So alternate nostril breathing is not only teaching us to breathe through our nostrils and clearing our sinuses, but in yoga, we think about something called the nadis. And nadis are like the energy systems that run throughout the body, much like the meridian system for anybody who's had acupuncture for traditional Chinese medicine. So we have some main nadis that there's 7,200 of them in the body, or sorry, 72,000 of them, I think, in the body. But the main ones run up and they kind of curve until they hit higher in the body, and then they go on each side of the brain. So you have a right one and a left one. So the female one, or the right side, is Ida, and on the other side we have Pingala. And we want to make these two integrate with each other for Shodhamana. And I think I've mispronounced that, and I'm sorry. But what we're going to do with the alternate nostril breathing is we are trying to, because if you've ever noticed, you breathe predominantly on one side of your nostril, and about every 90 seconds it switches. So what we're going to do with alternate nostril breathing is we are hoping to repeat the cycle over and over of switching. That opens up the airways in both of them, and it integrates in the brain. Right, and that brings calmness, and it stills us. So how we would do alternate nostril breathing is you're going to breathe in from, we'll start with the right side. You would breathe in with your right side. You're going to breathe out. Sorry, as you breathe in, once you're on the top of the breath, you switch sides. And then you're going to breathe out on the opposite side. Breathe in on that side. Switch at the top, and then exhale. Now, there are multiple variations of doing this. In yoga, they like to do it ultimately getting up to where you have an in-breath for 1 count, hold it for 4, and out for 2. I find for a lot of people starting that's a lot to do. And so a lot of people find that the exhale is more beneficial for calming the nervous system because it lowers blood pressure. So my suggestion for anybody starting with alternate nostril breathing would be to follow your own breath pattern. Maybe you don't even do a hold at the top to begin with. So say for you, you feel comfortable to breathe in for 4 seconds. So you'd breathe in for 4 seconds, and then when you make the switch, try to breathe out for longer than you breathed in. So maybe you start and it's only for 6 seconds on the way out. Maybe you build up to 8. And as you've done that now, you find that you've done a couple repetitions of this, you'll also, as you start to calm down, it's going to be easier to extend the breath. So in that case, now you can maybe be breathing in for 6, right? Switching, breathing out 8, increasing maybe to 10, whatever it is, but make the pattern comfortable for you. Because if you have a lot of stress and anxiety doing this because you're trying to reach a goal, or even your BOLT score, you're worried about getting it higher, or you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, it's kind of counterproductive to what you're trying to do. So alternate nostril breathing is a really great way to clear the nasal passages and also to calm the body. Another really good thing, I don't know if anybody here has ever heard of Wim Hof. So I love Wim Hof. I got to be honest, I'm not that a big fan of the cold showers, even though I do try to do them. But Wim Hof does hypoxic breathing and then long breath hold. So you'll be able to find him if you just go on YouTube and you look him up. And as a matter of fact, Wim Hof is so popular now that lots of other people have spun off on his ideas, and there's lots of people doing his things. I would suggest if you're going to start to do his actual videos, because some people are now trying to hold their breath for longer and longer times, and maybe that's good for someone that's practiced for a while. But if this is something new to you, especially if your health isn't that great yet, you want to start where your breath hold is maybe only in between rounds, a minute only, and then building up. You don't want to go too much too fast. You want to build up to something comfortable. So in this case, what Wim Hof is going to have you do is you're going to either be sitting with a straight back or lying down. And he is asking that you take a deep breath. So this one, in this case, it is actually going to move through all parts of your body. You're starting with the deep breath, moving it into your abdomen, then into your lower chest, then into your upper chest. And as you take this I know we just talked about not doing large oxygen breath, but this isn't something you're going to practice as your regular breathing pattern. This is something that you're doing for training specifically. And then in the rest of the day, this is helping you to actually improve your breath cycle. So don't worry about in this case. I know it's opposite to what I had just said, but you're only doing this as a little, like once a day maybe, and you're doing it for a short amount of breath. You're not going to carry it with you the rest of the day. So you take this big, huge breath. Your diaphragm is now going to then pull down into your abdomen. And then without a lot of effort, you're just letting go of the breath. And so you're doing it in a pattern. So you don't want to have any holds during a Wim Hof in this type of breathing. You're going to take the big breath in, big breath out. You're doing that for most people are averaging 30 rounds of in and out breathing. And then on the last on the 30th breath, you're going to exhale, and then you're going to hold your breath with it on the exhale, so you have no oxygen in you. And in this case, this is a fantastic way for meditating. So on each 3 rounds, I like to think of, for myself anyway, you can find something. I like to think of allow, accept, let go. And I find it really very meditative when you are not breathing even. So there's something about the stillness of nothing moving in your body, and you're really in your mind. But you still have some kind of a sensation, because for a lot of people, especially when I started doing it in the beginning, you get all of these feelings in your body during this hypoxic breath hold. So you might get feelings of temperature changing. You might get like tingling or like pins and needles. There'll be like a way that you feel this in your body. And then you just kind of just still yourself while you're having that. And then you repeat 3 rounds. Each round, you're going to hold your breath for a little bit longer. So this is something that I really think has been beneficial. It's also really something that actually supercharges your mitochondria too, provides a lot of energy. So a lot of people with MS, one of the biggest reasons people end up on disability is because of fatigue. So I know for myself that when I was really struggling with this last relapse, I couldn't really do much because I couldn't stand up and walk. It was hard even to hold my trunk up. So I found that if I could just lay on the floor, and between meditation and doing Wim Hof, it really did. You could tell the noticing of every day that you practice, you were going to get a little bit more stamina and energy from it. So absolutely beneficial. Another thing you might want to do to increase your Bolt score over time is going to be walking while you're holding your breath. So in this case, again, you want to have already been pretty calm before you're going to do it. You are going to take, again, just a calm breath in and out. And then in this case, as you're walking, you're actually going to pinch your nose a little bit. And while you're pinching it, you're on the exhale, you're holding your breath. You're going to count how many steps that you can take. So, I started because, again, I've had a lot of health issues. My score wasn't that great. I think I was doing comfortably about 18 paces. I'm up to about 35 now. And that didn't take very long, by the way, either. They say what you're trying to look for is 80 over time. I'm not there yet, but see wherever you start, and then you're just looking to make some kind of progress. But again, no pressure on yourself. And we're all where we're supposed to be, and our body is unique to us, and so is our experience. Nobody else has ever lived in our body and in our life. So please don't compare yourself or put pressure on yourself. Even as a yoga teacher myself, I'm not going to pressure myself that I need to be somewhere that's, more advanced than anybody else. I'm a human just like you, and I'm struggling with my own health challenges. So that's another good one to do. And again, with that one, it's just like when you're doing your bolt score, you don't want to be gasping for air. So when you're going to stop pinching your nose and you're going to take a breath in, you don't want to feel like you're going, or you have to breathe through your mouth now. All times you want to be breathing through your nose. We're always going to, from this point on, breathe through your nose, please. This is the thing we're going to talk about is breathing through your nose is what's going to create nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is something that serves a ton. It's a signaling molecule, and it does a ton of functions in the body. It helps a lot with cardiovascular, and it's going to help to do so many things for us to transport the oxygen and other functions in our body that we really want to make sure that we're breathing only through our nose. And when you're doing the breath hold, what's interesting about that is the nitric oxide actually builds up in the nasal passage. So holding your breath for longer not only is working on the CO2 retention, but is also going to be helping with nitric oxide production. So it's like a double whammy benefit. Okay, so for a lot of us, some of these other things, even though these are free and these are fairly easy exercises to do, I know that it still requires some kind of mental fortitude and stamina to keep with it and to think about doing it all the time, especially when you don't particularly notice any great change right away. Some of us can kind of reach plateaus where we kind of stay there. Anyone that's healed nerves, I know this now too, the patience that required, because we can be doing a lot of work to heal ourselves, and we don't notice anything for months at a time. We kind of stay in one spot, but all of a sudden it's like that last wire that we needed connects, and boom, that new level of functioning improves again. Your breath work is going to be the same kind of way. You might not notice it right away, but if you stick with it, you're going to notice it over time. But what I really want to just say, because this one is really easy and this can help us all right away. A lot of people that suffer with mouth breathing, and some of us are daytime mouth breathers. I do notice that in some people, and that's something that I would really encourage you to consciously take hold of and to really try not to do. But what do we do during our sleep? So we cannot meditate ourselves into better breathing patterns when we're sleeping. We are just at the mercy of our subconscious now and our physical body. So I never believed my whole life that I snored, because not perfect me. I must be beautiful and angelic when I'm sleeping all the time. Until one day when I was pregnant, I woke up hearing snoring, and I sat up on the couch and I looked around and I had to laugh. So I'm like, oh no, I'm by myself. So definitely that was me snoring. And it's snoring, and I have since then also suffered sleep apnea. So I've never done a sleep study test, so I've never gone somewhere and properly been diagnosed. I've never done it. I don't have a CPAP machine, none of these things, but I know myself, I've woken up gasping for air several times in a night before, and sometimes it's worse than other times. Definitely in my life before, when I was drinking and smoking, I noticed that was worse. So with that being said, anybody who snores or anybody who drools or notices they're tired after they sleep, we really want to make sure that we're correcting it at night, because this is by far the easiest way too, because if we can get it right when we're sleeping, we don't have to do anything else. It just, for that 8 hours, hopefully we're sleeping, that's happening. And if our mouth is closed while we're sleeping and we're getting nitric oxide production, our CO2 receptors are hopefully resetting in some way. And when that's happening and our brain now gets to have a deep, restful, restorative sleep, our lymphatic system in the brain, which is only able to drain at night and to detoxify itself, is going to do a better job of that. And all of us suffering with MS or any other neurodegenerative disease, we really need this lymphatic system to be working while we're sleeping. So here's the easiest thing that I'm going to give to you guys today. Is mouth tape. And when I first heard about this too, especially because the first product someone had said to me is called hostage tape, and I was like, wow, that's like ridiculous. I don't want to put this huge thing and tape my mouth while I'm sleeping. So what I had done with this when I first got it, this is something you can just buy it offline. I don't like buying things from Amazon, so I just bought this just at a pharmacy. It's just like medical grade tape that you can put on your skin. So it's less than a Band-Aid. So when you pull it off, it doesn't hurt as much. So with this one, when I first started, I actually just took like a little piece of it, and I ripped it in half, and I just put a little piece just this way, like half of this strip this way. So that way, when I was still laying in bed and my kids came in or I needed to talk, because your mouth is open on the sides, you could still get some kind of talking. But over time, as I became more comfortable, I realized that you're still, especially right now, because I've been congested for a couple of weeks, that you could still get some air on the side of your mouth, so it wasn't quite as effective. So now that I've become more comfortable with this, and now that everybody knows I'm wearing it at night, so they're not bothering me as much to talk, I go the whole way. So I tape my whole mouth closed now, so there's no way you're getting any oxygen through your mouth. And you always know when you do, because you wake up with a dry mouth. And that's also not just bad for all of these things we've talked about with breathing, but it's also actually really bad for your oral health as well too, because the bacteria and the microbiome and everything changes when you don't have the right kind of saliva in your mouth. So if you're breathing through your mouth all night, you're drying it out. And also you're losing a lot of that oxygen, you're losing a lot of the moisture and a lot of your hydration overnight, because you're breathing through your mouth and you're losing a lot of that through respiration. So taping your mouth, I know it sounds ridiculous, but this is something that's going to cost you like maybe, under $3, $5 maybe, just at a local pharmacy. And it really will make a difference. So you are going you sleep so much better when you have this. So I used to wake up during the night, and I mean, honestly, my chronic urinary tract infections, we'll talk about that one day, because I know MS, that's a big issue for a lot of people. It has improved a lot too from some other things I'm doing. So waking up at night might partially be because of that as well. But since I started taping my mouth at night, the quality of my sleep is so much better. Like I wake up now and I absolutely feel rested, because with the MS, especially during relapses, it was really a lot of energy management. So I would wake up, and even though I had gone to bed and I had been there for maybe 8 hours, I was waking up, and within 20 minutes, it's like I needed to lay down again. And I had to all day think about if I was going to cook dinner or I was going to sweep the floor. There was only so many things you could stand up and do, and then I'd have to sit down, and I'd have to think about my day and conserving energy. Like, how many things do I want to accomplish today? And I'd have to save some of my energy for those things. Since doing this, and I mean, it might be more than just this, because to be honest, I'm doing a lot of things, but I think this plays a big part in it. It really is noticeable. And as a matter of fact, it's not just me now. Other family members are also taping their mouth at night and finding benefits. And these are people, again, they don't have chronic health issues. They don't have MS. But still, if you snore or you mouth breathe, anybody is going to feel better with these things added in. We can all improve our Bolt score over time. And especially if you're an athlete too, because for a lot of athletes, like I used to do triathlons and long distance running. And I know that at a certain point, I couldn't breathe through my nose anymore, that I started breathing through my mouth. And I used to think that that was fine and acceptable, because, well, why wouldn't you? I mean, once you've been running for, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour mark, of course, you're going to breathe through your mouth. You need to get more oxygen. But honestly, after having so many health issues, I look back and I think maybe I should have added this onto my list of possible things that can cause my MS. But I did sales for a living for most of my life. So I talked all day on the phone. I rode my bike back and forth to work. And then I did HIIT cardio. I did weight training. And I'm also doing endurance sports. So there was a lot of heavy breathing and over breathing that was being done as well. So, I mean, I guess I should have added that in maybe to things that could have contributed to me having MS. But anyway, I think that was a lot of stuff about breathing. There is so much about it. I love pranayama as part of yoga. That really is my most favorite part, because like I was started this video with, the connection between your mind, body, and your spirit is your breath. It is what animates your life. And it is the thing, like I said, that if you didn't know anything about health and you were just trying to figure out your body and why things weren't working, what is the most essential thing you're ever going to do is breathe. So why don't we start there in understanding how we can get back into homeostasis? It's free, almost free. And it's really easy to do. And even if you're on the floor like I was, and you're in a wheelchair or you're struggling, you're still going to breathe today. And as long as you're breathing, you can improve your health by breathing better, breathing more efficient, breathing more intelligently, and breathing with intention and purpose. Because we do have control over it. And even at night, when we're not conscious of our breath, we're still going to tape our mouth closed, and that's going to help us as well. So I hope that you take some of these forward. There's lots of more information on these things. I will be putting out a video soon about alternate nostril breathing, so you can watch my video on that for more information. But otherwise, YouTube is got tons of things about Nadi Shodhana, and as well as Wim Hof breathing, hypoxic breathing. So these are all things I would suggest that you start with there. And as you develop these skills and you start to get a higher BOLT score and you start to feel better, maybe you'll be inspired to take up more yoga practice and learn more about breathing. And one takeaway then to remember: when somebody tells you next time to take a deep breath, remember that you're not taking a big breath, you're taking it just deep into your abdomen. So your breathing should be light, and it should be almost unnoticeable. So I don't know, this one isn't yoga. I think this might be Qigong, but definitely because I think it comes from traditional Chinese medicine. But being said that, if you are not healthy, you will hear somebody beside you will hear you breathing. As you get healthier, you should not be able to hear yourself breathing. And as you reach a real pinnacle optimization of health, your breathing should be unnoticeable, right? So you should be able to have like a feather or a piece of something light paper on the end of your nose. And when you're breathing in and out through your nose, it should be imperceptible. It shouldn't be moving. So this kind of light breathing should, and a lot of people that train in martial arts or in these different kinds of disciplines, they're training for that while they're doing physical activity, that they're still breathing through their nose and they're breathing these really light, easy breaths. So I want you to keep that in mind. So next time you take a deep breath, remember you're taking it deep into your belly, not big. You don't want a big breath. You want light, easy breathing. So with that said, I want you all to take a deep yoga breath and have a wonderful week. I hope that the rest of your day is blessed. I hope your week is blessed, and I hope you have a blessed life. Namaste.